way back. Great. I was just saying, Wade, first of all, we can start with the news about Matty Blair this morning. Obviously, a very difficult decision to have to make for any player when you have to announce your retirement. But your thoughts on that to start with?
Well, I think Blair's got his head around it, so he's had a little bit of time to come to terms with it. I think he's content in himself that he squeezed every drop out of his career. So one thing about Blair is he's all in, he'll give you everything. So I think Blair is content in himself that he squeezed every drop of potential out of his career, and he's got to an age where he's got to make a decision about whether he wants to carry on and he'll have it will affect his quality of life a little bit, or he's 33 years old, he's got a young family and he can go and spend a little bit of time with them. So it's been fantastic for the football club, on and off the pitch. So, you know, he's not really been involved too much since pre-season. So we've gone through that transition of not having him around and him not being here. But, you know, he's been big shoes to fill.
Yeah, and when you bear in mind, you know, he joined 2 years ago, really, but the impact he's had in that time, helping the club obviously win the League Two title and the highest ever finish in League One, and I guess it's going to leave a massive gap. Obviously, you say you've adapted it this season, but in terms of his personality around the club.
Yeah, in terms of leave a gap, because it's like Radio Blair around the training ground. He's the only voice you can hear. But it's a good way for him to, my personal view, he's come off the back of 2 really good years. So he's won a league, he's helped us to our highest ever finish. So it's probably, weighing all that up, he's probably a good time for him to, he's probably thinks it's a good time for him to stop. He goes out on a little bit of a high. So most important thing about Blair, he's a really good person. So for all that he's contributed on the pitch, he's a good guy, he's a good person, he'll give you everything he's got, he'll help others. So I couldn't speak any more highly of him. Obviously he'll be a miss because he's contributed massively over the past 2 years, but like anything, football adapts and evolves and moves on, and other people will step in and fill the void, but it will obviously look different without Blairy. And he did it. He was a part of the fabric over the past 2 years. So we'll miss him and it will look different, but obviously we'll move on and we'll adapt it ourselves.
And as you said, I guess at the end of the day, it comes to the quality of life, isn't it? That if you've got that balance between carrying on, but maybe that affecting you, or actually making that decision, spending more time with your family. Sometimes football is not always the most important thing.
Well, I think you've got to put in context where Blair is in his career as well. He's, you know, he has an operation or he manages it, and he's 33 years old, so really he's putting himself through, he has to weigh up whether it's worth putting himself through it for 1 year or 2 years. So it's probably, I think, when you weigh it all up, it's probably the pragmatic decision for him. And he's got young kids. He took his boy to watch Villa last week, which obviously you don't get the chance to do when you're playing every weekend. He'll be able to spend a lot of time with them now. So weighing everything up, I think for Matty it was probably the right decision. When you look at the bigger picture, for him it was the right decision where he is in terms of his career and in terms of his life. And like I say, we wish him all the best, and it'll be strange not hearing his voice all the time, because you can't help but tune into it. But he'll obviously always be welcome back here, and he'll always be a friend of the football club, and he'll always be remembered for what he's contributed over the past 2 seasons.
And just moving on, it's been quite an exceptional week, I think, for the nation. And obviously, you would have prepared to play on Saturday, and then the game was off. Was that the right call, do you think? Would you like to have played to be able to pay your respects on Saturday?
I don't think there was a right or a wrong call. I think, sort of, regardless of, it would have split opinion if games had gone ahead, just like as if they've been called off. But we respect the decision that was made, and there's obviously, like we've just talked about, there are more important things than football sometimes.
And of course, football does get the opportunity to pay its respects when the games are back on Tuesday, and I guess that's an important thing to do. Football is one of those sports where it does bring people together, and I guess it gives people the opportunity as one to be able to pay their respects ahead of the game. Yeah,
I'm sure we will. I'm sure the reception in the stadium will reflect what you've seen up and down the country over the past couple of days.
And in terms of the last few days, how have things changed not having the game? Have you been able to spend perhaps more time on the training pitch, and particularly with the new players you brought in, giving them perhaps a bit more time to help bedding in?
No, not really. Obviously, we prepped for Bolton, so we had a week of work for Bolton. I think the game got called off. The cancellations were made at about 11:15 on Friday, so mid training session. Schedule didn't really change too much. Players were in on Saturday. They worked a little bit of conditioning, half an eye on Cambridge, and then schedule stayed exactly the same. Sunday was their day off. In this morning, and we'll prep for Cambridge.
And Cambridge, obviously, a pretty decent start to the season. Actually, they're at the moment. What do you make of them so far?
Well, we know them pretty well from the past. So we've gone toe to toe with them for the past 2 years. So I think they haven't changed too much in terms of personnel. One or two, but generally they're pretty similar to what we've seen over the past couple of years. Really well drilled, good threat at the top end of the pitch. Ironside, Smith, Brophy, Nibs. Behind them a really solid base. So they've had good continuity for the past couple of years, and they're in a really good vein of form. So team we know well, team we've had good games with in the past, sort of the home game aside last year. So no, we're looking forward to it. It's sort of been, obviously everybody was, as a player, gear yourself all week to play on a Saturday, and when they've not been able to vent that at the weekend, so I'm sure they're chomping at the bit for the game Tuesday.
Wade, that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Cheers, mate.
Wade, you mentioned Smith there. Obviously, you know him well from a couple of years ago, played a part in the title win. How impressed have you been with what he's done since he's been at Cambridge? Because he got over 20 last year, and he's started this season again very well, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's been excellent, Sam. And in fairness, I like to think we played a bit of a part in that. So we had a couple of loans that hadn't quite worked out for him. We took him. I think we gave him a good platform to play. Maybe gave him a little bit of confidence back. And to be fair, he's gone to Cambridge. They've obviously done really good work with him. He's applied himself, and you're seeing the potential that people have talked about with Sam for a long time. So, yep, good player. Scored a good goal against us in the final game of last season. Scored a really similar one not too long ago. So, well aware of Sam and what he's all about.
You've got an away win under your belt. You've got a couple of hard-earned points on the road as well. I know it's an obvious one, but how keen are you just to get that first positive result at home now?
Yeah, we're keen, yeah. Yeah, well, it's a bit of a closed question, that, John.
I'll rephrase it, Wade, because it's a terrible question. You haven't won at home yet. How much difference do you think it will make to get that first home win under your belt in front of your own fans?
Yeah, you don't want it to become when you look at the bigger picture, the performances at home have been pretty good. I think Portsmouth was the only game where I've come off and I thought it was probably about the right score. I thought Pompey were very good. they had probably had a little bit too much know-how and nous for us and managed the game really well. I think the other home games we've been, if we'd have come in with points off the back of them, you'd have said that was more than fair. So performances have been really good. Lads can't get too hung up on results because it can be counterproductive, and they can get tied up and obsessed with that when really all they've got to concentrate is delivering a similar performance to, if they deliver a performance like Peterborough and they deliver a performance like Oxford, then I'm 100% confident that we'll pick up points at home.
After the Vale game, you were quite hopeful of Liam Turk and Ryan Jackson getting back into training before the end of last week, and Elliott Bond's not too far behind. Are any of them going to come into contention for Cambridge? Yeah,
I think the only one who is not available is, I think the only people not available are Bonzi and JT. JT's picked up something with his knee that we need to assess, so they're the only two.
Just going back to Blairy, Wade, obviously it's difficult. I know you would have put him first and his family and everything first, but as a head coach, was it quite a difficult one knowing how to approach that one? Because obviously if he was going to be retiring, you needed to move quite quickly, didn't you? And I suppose that explains bringing in an experienced replacement in Ryan Jackson, but was that quite a tricky one over the summer?
Dealing with it with Blairy? Is that...
Putting aside the sort of, the emotional side of Blair having to retire, but in terms of planning for the season, was it quite a tricky one to know when to move in the market to bring in an experienced replacement?
Well, no, it became the plan was to bring a young one in to, Blairy's 33, and even if right wing back is physically it's taxing, so the plan was to bring a young one in and nurture him under Blairy, manage Blairy's minutes, and hopefully in 6, 12, 18 months there's someone there who is up to speed and will take over from Blairy. Obviously when it became obvious that it wasn't going to be a short-term one with Blairy, that changed a little bit and we needed to go and get an experienced one, which is why we were able to move quite quickly on Jacko. So no, not necessarily a difficult one. It was, the plans changed a little bit, but I think your plans change all the time and you have to adapt quickly.
What did you do at the weekend, Wade? Because normally if Cheltenham aren't playing, there'll be loads of other games that you probably wanted to go and watch or send other people to go and watch. So with no football happening, did you actually switch off for a bit?
No, I went home. I went home and saw my family. So it was which is good because you can get other people to do all the chores, to cook dinner and run around and fuss after you. So yeah, I was able to have a little bit of time, and then obviously gave us a little bit of a window to prep for Cambridge.